Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Veg Networking Canada, where vegan plant-based professionals and companies connect and collaborate. We're going to start, as we always do, with our land acknowledgement. We acknowledge, honor, and respect that much of the land that we are gathered on is part of traditional, unceded territories of many different Indigenous peoples of Canada. We're thrilled. We have a special guest today who is an advocate for the many benefits of positive mental attitude. He is a specialist in formulating strategies and execution with a history in health, logistics, software, and energy. He led multi-million-dollar growth for Kelron Logistics Beverage Division, former VP of Business Development for CryoPeak LNG Solutions, leading it all the way from success in early stages to a merger and acquisition by BP Energy Partners. He is brilliant at taking new concepts to market and communicating value to customers, employees, and investors. Today, Veg Networking Canada is happy to welcome our special guest, co-founder and chief alignment officer at Buck St. Michael Foods, Jason McIvor. Welcome, Jason.
Justin, wow. Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
We're excited to have you. Thank you so much. If people pop in a little bit later, that's great. If not, no worries. We have a lot of members who watch these on the replay. So tell us a little bit more about Buck's vegan plant-based origin story. Why that type of product? Why this market? Why this industry?
Oof, this is good. I love this. So when I was a VP at CryoPeak, I looked at really how natural gas could help improve the environment. And when I really dug into it, it helped maybe one step forward. And I really thought it would help like 10 steps forward. So I took some time off. There was probably about 4 months and I was just at home. I was doing the health, kind of meditating, making sure you exercise, eating right, and kind of taking that break that we don't often give ourselves when we're kind of really at that job. Yeah, every day I was meditating and I could just feel the goodness of things coming in. I can't explain it any other way than this 1 week. I just knew good things were happening in my life, and anybody who was interacting with me had something to do with it. Peter Upanko, my business partner, called and I said, Peter, I can feel you from a mile away. Whatever you're about to say, I'm a yes. He goes, you don't even know what I'm about to say. I said, it doesn't matter. I'm a yes. He goes, okay, well, let's meet up. So we meet up and he's talking about buckwheat. And I don't know anything about buckwheat. And he tells me, well, buckwheat is amazing for this planet and it's amazing for our bodies. I said, tell me more. He said, on the planet side, it literally regenerates the ground. I'm like, what do you mean? Like the buckwheat plant, literally when it's planted into the ground, it's not just sustainable, it literally regenerates the soil. And I just thought, oh my goodness, like going from gas to now a food that I can believe in that literally helps support this earth from a very practical component. It just excited me so much. So then Peter told me about some of his ideas. I got really excited about it. We joined forces again after 15 years. And that's how we kind of got started.
Beautiful. And you hit the nail on the head. In my research recently, I'm seeing a lot of firms in their pitch decks moving away from sustainable and moving towards regenerative, because the understanding is that sustainable is a sort of fixed scarcity mindset type of concept, whereas regenerative is abundance and the opposite. So I completely understand what you're talking about there. We all do. Absolutely amazing. So we touched on your intro a little bit about your entrepreneurial origin story, but I'm sure it goes back further than what we talked about. So why don't you tell us about that?
So what's kind of led me to this place of really sitting in the positive mindset and having that lead in our company at Buck has been a couple of failures along the way. Failure is a part of success, right? Like if you can get there, it is. So when I was 19, I did college pro painting. And what I found I was really good at was the actual sales component. What I wasn't so good at was the operational component. I did it enough that I think I might have lost my hair early. I just stressed about every operational piece. And I remember thinking to myself, I want to be an entrepreneur. I'm just not fully ready. And so I kind of just got back at it, finished off my schooling, got different jobs and roles. And every time in a role, I noticed that I was kind of taking a step towards that entrepreneurial aspect. Even when I was at Fortis, which is a utility, I asked to be put in front of LNG for mine haul trucks. And I did the first project to convert diesel to LNG so that you don't have diesel spilling everywhere and it's a little bit healthier for the environment. And so I just noticed that as I was leading these, I just got more and more comfortable, and I just learned about myself, and I gave myself more grace, gave more other people grace as well too. I think the biggest thing that I just learned is slowing down so I can listen to other people's perspectives. Some people come by it naturally. I don't. I really love to progress things, and I've really looked to cultivate bringing in other people's perspectives because it's powerful when you can do that. So from an entrepreneurial standpoint, it was taking a step in each role. When I was at Cryo Peak LNG, they were a smaller company. So going from a big company to a smaller company was a step. The man who was there, I know there was, the introduction is very flattering. I have to acknowledge, my CEO at the time, I did have some shares in the company. His name is Callum McClure, brilliant man. So the results were done within a team. But even in that role, it's small company, I joined them, I was like number 4. And so every time I just kept on prepping, and I like to play the long game. I'm confident that good things will happen, even when they're not showing up, but you do the right reasons because they're right. So I love playing the long game. And that's partly who I am. I feel like I've stepped into being an entrepreneur now, mid 40s, got some pep in my step still, and smart enough to know that I don't know it all. So that's kind of my story.
Amazing, amazing. And we've had some other special guests recently who shared a very similar sort of entrepreneurial origin story whereby they were dipping their toe into that world through intrapreneurship and through being an entrepreneur inside of a company, which is exactly what it sounds like you were able to do. And then now you're setting your wings free and able to do what you're doing now, which is exciting things ahead. Speaking of which, Buck is in an interesting, thriving, booming industry in basically, dairy-free milks. So our third question for you is, what are some trends in your industry?
Well, the biggest one that I heard, and I'd have to get my stats exactly right, but it's something like globally, there's $2 billion of market share coming off every year of milk, just milk, period. We're actually starting to see it. We've had a couple of dairy plants actually reach out to us and say, hey, what are you doing with your plant-based stuff? And they're seeing that there is a trend from the dairy to the non-dairy. There's crazy amounts of population that don't do well with dairy. Like, it's just mind-boggling, really. And we're starting to accept that as a culture, and it's starting to blend in and start to be a bit of mainstream. So that's probably one of the number one trends. I think adjacent to that question, we're starting to see also celebration of the individual. And I know this isn't directly within here, but I think it's important because it deals with nutrition. When we feel good about ourselves, we're going to digest better. And I think there's this elegant way that we're starting to see. It starts off with random stuff like TikTok. And I know we have all thoughts about what TikTok is and everything else, but really in the end, it's people celebrating, being a little bit silly, doing some dancing and celebrating who they are. We're starting to see more and more trends of that. You go to America's Got Talent or whatever, and you're starting to see that's recognized and rewarded. So I actually see that in this space as well. How that relates back to Buck is your social media platform. You're seeing the trends. The people who are getting rewarded are being funky, are being fun, and they're deeply rooted that it's not just okay to be me, but it's worth celebrating to be me. And if there's anything that I'd want any listener to know or any of our consumers to know, is that we absolutely believe in your goodness. Like, we want to be a bold statement in goodness, and we want to take the goodness of the earth, bring it to the goodness of our consumers. So ultimately there's more good in this planet for all of us. I just think that's a motto to live by.
Own your goodness, right?
Be Buck, own your goodness. Yeah, that's what our statement is. We've taken the Buck category and made it a bit of a verb. Be Buck for us is somebody that has a little bit of swagger, not too much, but just enough that they're owning what they do in the way that they do it. And it could be somebody that's a bookworm. and they just love to be a bookworm, and they're reading, and maybe they're blogging online, or maybe they have a book club, whatever it is, but that lights them up. That to me is part of being buck. It's not just being flashy and being like, oh, look at me, I'm being on some public platform. That's not it. The being buck is owning truly what's great for you, because when we do that, I study neuroscience too. It literally shows that it lights up your brain. You go to the parts, like you connect different parts you didn't know you had. All of a sudden connections make sense. The clarity's there. And it starts from a very basic spot. So I'm kind of diverging here into the positive mindset piece, which I absolutely love, and is a core part of buck, though. It is a backbone of buck. So.
Buck yeah, Jason. Buck yeah.
Buck yeah, absolutely. We're a little bit cheeky too. I think it's important to lighten up and have a little bit of fun along the way. So.
Very, very interesting perspective on trends in the industry. From a macro standpoint, the divestment or reallocation of funds into moving from one industry into the other. But from like a micro standpoint, to your point, like down to the individual, what are the trends? The trends are people really internalizing how to love and take care of themselves, from celebrating themselves and what they put into their body and where it comes from. So amazing, amazing. So, pardon me, maybe 1 year, 2 year, 5 years, where is your brand Buck going in the future?
Ooh, love that question. I see it North America easy in a couple of years. I want to be a global brand. I want it so much. You have no idea how much I want it, because it represents to me a way of being. The way of being is that we can literally do two things. We can receive and we can give at the same time. That's what buckwheat's about. So I see the brand, yes, being in North America as a platform, but I also see it moving over to Asia. I love Asian culture. I don't know what it is. There's history. There's more speed for sure for the money, but it's not about the money. It's really about a lot of the history and the culture that we're attracted to over there. So I see us being there predominantly, actually having a strong brand in Asia as well. And I put on my vision board. We'll see how it goes. But before Peter walked in to or gave me a call, I put 100 million revenue. I want to grow a company from beginning to end to 100M. So yeah, I see that. I see that as well.
North America and then global domination. Amazing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Everywhere it makes sense though too. So part of the story, and this is really important, we do love local farmers. We are supporting Canadian farmers currently. A lot of our buckwheat is taken from Manitoba. We're looking at a Quebec source right now too. And what I love about that is we need to have a look at all of the different aspects of the business. It's not just regenerating from the ground. We have to figure out, what about the supply chain? Like we're doing a possible deal in Europe right now where they would be using our formulation for some of their products. And we're going to start off shipping some product over. But I want to get to, as quickly as we can, finding the local products so that we don't have to ship. When we go into the States, same thing. We've got lined up the buckwheat from the States. When we go over to China, we're going to have to look at that as well too. China is a little interesting because there is still some hesitation in terms of, some of the food processes that have happened in the past in China. I believe they're evolving and they're figuring it out, but there still is a recognition for outside products. So if we can reduce that cost, like we're looking at things of, shipping our proprietary blend without the liquids and putting our liquids there. That might be a way as we move forward. But yeah, we would like to support local as much as we can.
All right, folks. Well, you heard it here. Lots of exciting plans in the pipe for Buck, where they're going in the future. So next question, there's no right or wrong answer. We have companies who are building this out in their model, or they're secured and they're adding to it. But the question is, does Buck support any charitable organizations or plan to?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're 1% for the planet. And in order to get that, there is a contribution that's kind of requested as well as documented. What we're doing right now is we actually do have a give back campaign that anybody who wants to donate any of our products will match it. So if it's a food bank, if it's a lunch program, whatever it is, we had somebody that wanted to put some smiles on some homeless faces. They wanted to donate our ice cream, so we matched it. So yeah, we're totally into that giving cause. As we get more and more and more kind of revenue, there'll be some more interesting stuff. I released a cheeky video about getting naked for a good cause, calling out Ryan Reynolds. He hasn't heard it yet, but I think some of his close people have. In that, we're calling out saying, hey guys, come donate something because we want to give some stuff too. But there's this intuitive sense that I have. It's crazy. It's so strong. I can't stop talking about it. There's somebody that's going to pop up because of this program that is going to be really meaningful to us. And when I think about it, I actually get emotional. I can feel the power of who this person is, and I can feel where they're coming from. And I'm wanting to help them. I want to find them. So yes, we're committed to giving back, and it's going to look really interesting. The one with Ryan Reynolds, we sent it out. It got some local traction. There's another good thing coming out. I don't want to ruin it quite yet, but it's going to involve a Canadian sports star. And we're going to be doing something kind of fun.
Well, that video was definitely cheeky indeed. And that's amazing what you have going on. Absolutely amazing. Love it. Love it. So from an entrepreneurial business standpoint, for those listening, you can pick one or multiple or whatever it is, but what might be a book, podcast, or app that you would recommend for someone on an entrepreneurial journey?
You know what? I'm going to just recommend a resource. And this is just the way I think. Whatever it is, a book, a podcast, or something else, it absolutely has to resonate for you. When you hear like the great speakers saying, you know, Tony Robbins or somebody else, here's the 3 things that you have to do to be an excellent entrepreneur, or to, it's not, we don't resonate with those 3 things. We resonate with the passion of that person, knowing what those 3 things mean to them. What I've done for the last 2 years is I've stopped reading. I've stopped listening to tons of stuff, and it's really narrowed down to very specific things. And typically the filter comes through, if I get 3 recommendations, I'm going to have a look at it. What I did is I listened to everybody and anybody on meditation. I heard the benefits of meditation, and the ability to pause between stimulus and response is altering. It's life-changing. So I would recommend, if you're going to listen to anybody, find your Deepak Chopra of this world, and whoever that is for you, sink into the meditation piece. It has dramatically increased my capability as an entrepreneur. I can have discussions intelligently, whereas before I would be angry. I've learned to recognize, just that ability to have the power from the spaces in between. You know, like when you go to the shower and you get a great idea, all of a sudden, that's the space in between for me. And so at Buck, we try to encourage that with our employees. Like somebody's like, hey, I just went for a walk. Sorry, I just can't make this meeting. And instead of being like, oh, why can't you make the meeting? I'm like, great, go for a walk, find the space in between. I'm excited to hear what comes up, like as you're thinking, as you're walking. That's the recommendation. Find your meditation piece that really works for you, and go for it.
Wow, Buck, the space in between. I love it. So maybe for you personally, and from a company standpoint for Buck, what are some companies that are inspiring? Maybe local, maybe global, maybe both.
Yeah. You know what? It's an interesting question. And it's a bit of a minefield too, because you got to kind of pick it. I'm for stuff. I think there's more power in being for versus against. And this is going to sound so bad, but you talk to a company, or you look at companies like Petro-Canada. Why are they inspiring to me? Because here's a big behemoth and the whole world is telling you you're wrong. What are you doing still burning fossil fuel? And what have they done? They put up their hand. They said, we're trying to change. We're trying to do it. You see that they've got a lot of electric charging stations now, probably the best gas station here in Canada that has the most electric stations across Canada. That type of company that just stands up and does something for that cause. Yeah, I get it. They're selling oil and gas, and that's partly of who we are. It's kind of like telling somebody you're bad and stop being like that versus, hey, let's cultivate something new. So as bad as it sounds, that would be one. The other one that's inspiring, I want to be good at social media. I want to be really good. So Midday Squares, I love what they're doing. Those guys are crazy. I don't know if you guys seen them, but I think they're doing some great stuff. And then you've got a lot of local success stories. I know we've kind of had a look at the Daya guys and how they've kind of cultivated and formulated success, and they recently had a really successful exit. So kind of taking it from that perspective. Yeah, those are probably three that I just kind of bounce around and looking at. And I know it's not quite in the plant space, I guess, that first one, but yeah, that's what I got to say.
And that's all we want from the individuals that we talk to on Veg Network in Canada is we want authentic, honest conversations. We don't necessarily want cookie cutter answers. So we sincerely appreciate your answers. There's no right or wrong answers here. And you're in great company because we actually had Midday Squares on as a special guest early on in Veg Network in Canada. So we have a video that you can watch of them as well. So you're in great company. That's amazing. We've had multiple special guests talk about how great they are at building a tribe and community, specifically on social media. So bang on. All right, Jason. Well, it feels like we literally just started talking, but we're already here at the eighth conversation starter, the eighth question, the final one. And that is always prefaced by saying this is not the time to be modest. There is no right or wrong answer. You can take as much or as little time as you want, but it is what is some advice that you have for business owners and entrepreneurs?
The advice that I would have, I'll start with first the parental advice. So I became a parent many years ago, and I've got three things that I say to parents. One is somebody hungry? It's crazy how many times like a stupid argument happens because somebody's hungry. Mom's hungry, dad's hungry, baby's hungry. Okay, you get through that. Is somebody tired? Is the next one. Is my advice. Ask if somebody's tired. If somebody's tired, give them a nap time, have time out. Parents can have nap times too. The third thing I say is do whatever works for you as a parent. If you do those three things, you just can't go wrong. So I'm going to translate that to an entrepreneur. Is somebody hungry? How do you feed yourself? And I mean really nourish yourself, like nourish the soul to the point where you are so resilient in knowing the goodness of who you are, because everything and everybody is going to have a chance to tell you why it's not going to work, especially the way that you think about it. But that is the art of being an entrepreneur, is to stand in the unknown and confidently say, I believe my way of being is right. I believe the products that we are going to put forth is going to be a massive success. And in order to do that, there needs to be time, skills spent on how do you actually feed yourself. The second piece of advice, like with parents, people get tired. It's not, when there's a problem, you can't create the solution from the same level of thinking that's created the problem. What is that, Einstein quote? Something like this. It's smarter people than me. But what it does allude to is our brains have this really interesting mechanism that gets carried forward from momentum of past thoughts, momentum of past actions, momentum of even current actions or current realities where you don't have the results that you're looking for. So that rest, it's different for everybody. Rest for somebody might look like literally sleeping. It could look like biking. It could look like spending time with a family. It could look like meditating in my case. But that rest is so important because it definitely, the spaces in between where you get those ahas, and then boom, those ahas can be the difference between a new product or a failing product. That would be maybe even my biggest one. How do you allow yourself that space? It can be all consuming, and life isn't just about business. It absolutely is a huge part of it. And when you're living a lifestyle, which a lot of these brands are, especially in this space, in the vegan space, yeah, it's important. But there's so much joy to life, and the spaces in between will help you really enjoy it. So rest up in the way that works for you, and spend some time there. So
Yes. So you heard it. Feed yourself, nourish yourself, make sure you're rested, and find those ahas and that space in between to be who you truly are as an entrepreneur or a business owner, and stand your ground and have thick skin and own your goodness, as Jason and Buck and the Buck team would say. All right, everybody. Well, that's it. If you would like to find out more online about what Buck is up to, where they are now, where they're going, these amazing give back campaigns that have been discussed today, you can find them on the web. www.simplybuck.com, just how it sounds, simplybuck.com. And the same is true for their Instagram handle, which is @simplybuck, just how it sounds, simplybuck. Jason, pleasure having you here today. Amazing answers. Thank you so much for your time. And everybody else, we'll see you all the way up until the end of the year, where we have amazing special guests coming in to tell us more about their story. So thank you again, Jason. Have a wonderful day and take care.
Justin, thanks for the opportunity.